Good afternoon, everyone.
What up?
What's with the sky view of is that an ocean? In Nebraska, we
That,
really don't see those.
that is my home country. Yes, that is the ocean with one of our state parks on this side.
That's the calm ocean, right? Like it's a pretty placid area.
Uh, no, that's Cape of Good Storm. So there are plenty. Actually, just off to my right, left hand side, there is a shipwreck. It's just not in that shot. Pretty epic though.
Is there any place where there's not shipwrecks in South Africa?
Oh yeah, go up on the east coast. The
Okay.
water's warm. The sharks are free flowing. And you may get your bag stolen off the beach while you're in the water. It's great.
If I remember right, people tried to flood. It's like you think of all the countries in the world, and you think South Africa is the only place where we tried to go around the other side of the planet to avoid it.
It's called Cape of Good Hopes or Cape of Good Storms for a reason.
So this week we're talking about what was it? Something big's happening right now. Fourth quarter. I don't know if you checked the notes at all. Skip is out, enjoying some relaxing time while Richard and I take over the good storm down below.
Keeping hold of the storm.
So I was trying to calculate while I was taking my son to school today, and I was like, "Are we closer to Christmas than Easter?" Yes. Are we closer to Christmas than 4th of July? No, not quite.
Not quite.
And that's why every year we put down these little reminders of when you're entering fourth quarter and how much it's deceiving because you feel like you have so much time and you really don't. Because October is a good solid month to get a lot done. I mean, yeah, you have Halloween as a holiday there. You've got September where your kids are settled down in school, or work is just going steady. But then November hits, and November you got in the United States there's a major holiday at the end of the month where people basically take off the whole week. And then you get December, where there's another major holiday where people take off like 2 weeks. So you lose 3 weeks, almost an entire month of your year out of the next 4 months is gone. So
So,
really, September is the beginning of the fourth quarter.
so I know we're talking right now about America, but I'd like to know from our listeners in Australia as well as Europe when their fourth quarter starts. Because in South Africa, the fourth quarter only starts in December. So 1st of December, because we run the financial year from 1st of March right through because of February. Um, So if you're in South Africa and you're listening to this is your heads up to say fourth quarter's coming. Listen to everything we say and take notes. For everybody else, UK, Australia, we want to know how does your operation work. And in South Africa, it's also so you talk about December during being Christmas time. Generally, that's when South Africa shuts down, like America shuts down in summer. So because remember, seasons are reversed. So in December, you will have South African companies literally running on skeleton staff for 3 to 4 weeks over December, January.
Yeah.
So this is your warning. Get ready.
Well, I think in Canada it varies. Like their fiscal years are staggered. And United States, we got like the government fiscal year, we've got the calendar fiscal year, you got the major ones. And it is interesting. And the value here is understanding your client's fiscal year. Understanding like this is what's beautiful about having a narrow vertical. Like if you're just doing lawyers, you're just doing dentist offices, you can observe single fiscal years. But when you got like places that just start them all over the place, now you got to think, okay, when do I need to have the budget to my client for their next year's spend? And what I see a lot of MSPs doing, and this is a terrible, horrible mistake, and I think it's just because most people, when they're doing their personal budgets, don't think, hey, it's 2025 coming up. What are my big expenses in 2025? No, you live paycheck to paycheck or month to month. And you think this is how you should run a business. And for mature, like the mid-market businesses, which is who you should be aiming at right now, MSPs, they do their plan. They know how much they want to spend the next year. They know how much they have to spend every quarter, every month, and when they can do big expenses. And the way it works with these mid-sized companies is the first person with their hand out is the first person to get paid. It starts getting in their head, oh, I got this on the budget, it fits. We get to the end of the budget cycle, like October, they start thinking, oh crap, I can't fit anything more in this budget. Now I'm going to make cuts in order to squeeze in things I really want. And so if you've already created a narrative with them of, hey, if we do these things in 2025, here is what it's going to cost you, and here is how it's going to build your business. And that building your business is the key component. If we can do a wireless survey, or we can upgrade you to 5G internet, you can do these things. You can sell more, and you can sell faster, and you can do these things with your clients. Then when they come to, I need to trim up my budget by December 31st, you're not on the chopping block. They're already committed to making more money with you. Somebody else is going to get cut.
Yep. And if they are not the business that does the planning ahead, one, that may not be the right type of client you have. We all know we have those though, but it will show your professionalism in terms of going to that customer and going, hey, we're planning for next year. What's on your agenda? What do we need to know about? And if they turn around and go, oh, we haven't thought about that, go, okay, great. Can we have a session? Can we sit down and discuss it? And immediately you are adding value, not just from an IT perspective, but from a business as a whole. You are adding value to their business, which again just cements the relationship that you should be having with your customer to go, you are a valuable asset in their business. You're not just a cost center or the IT department. You are actually a valuable player within their teams.
Yeah. Think of it as, okay, let's say your client doesn't do budgeting. They're like you. They're just going month to month. Let's think of this really quickly. When you're walking across like a lake, right? Or you're walking across a stream, you know it's going to get muddy. You know it's unstable. Do you jump across the rocks, or do you jump across the wooden logs and the loose refuse? No, you look for a rock, and you're going to stand on that thing, and you're going to look for your next spot to jump across. Everybody's trying to make it through the 2025, and if you come with a 2025 budget and schedule of activities, you're the rock. They'll start planning around you. That's how this works. If they don't have a plan and you come with a plan, they're going to see you as the professional. They're going to see you as the guidepost of what needs to be done. You may not say that out loud, but the confidence level there, as Richard was saying, is much higher for somebody who is able to say, I have a plan, and here's how we're going to make you money, and here's how we're going to move forward. Guess who gets invited to the table next year for the plan?
You do. Yep. And you may be saying, well, if they don't sit down with me, how do I start putting a plan in place? How do I start putting a budget in place? It's simple. We've got the platform. We've got the gap analysis reports across the 4 pillars that we use. Go and do those reports now. It shouldn't take you a long time to do those reports. Your investment is very minimal, but you can then go to the customer and go, these are the projects, and forget about the tech side of it. These are the projects that we foresee will help your business grow in next year. Why? Yep. Because in the last 12 months, we've had endless amount of complaints about the Wi-Fi. We've had endless complaints about my computer's slow. We've had endless complaints about X, Y, and Z, and this will fix those issues. You've had no input from their directorship. You've had no input from them as a company as a whole, yet you've put things in place that can help mitigate those challenges that they're having, even if they don't see it immediately. Yep. So don't fret if the client's not giving you the time to have a QBR before or anything else. Set it in place. Use your professionalism, your expertise to start planning that out and show the customer, this is what I can do without your input. Imagine what I could do with your input.
Yep. And that extra input is ideal. If you walk to them and just say, hey, here's the PCs that are going to expire next year. That's their standard ops. That's your tactics. Mm-hmm. But they say, hey, we have a big air show coming up next year. It's once every 3 years in Lincoln. It's a huge amount of revenue. We need to be able to sell faster. Well, what's the biggest risk to that? Why can't you sell? Well, our payment system always goes down. Let's investigate how to make that not happen. Mm-hmm. We are technology experts. Let us look into your process. Here in Lincoln, Nebraska, we're a bit of a tourist town, right? So a lot of what we do revolves around the college sports here. So we'll have 100,000 people or 200,000 people come in on a weekend when there's a home game, and they're going to restaurants, they're going to hotels, and they're flooding into family gatherings, and everybody's trying to get a little piece of that pie. It's a huge spend. How are you as an IT person able to help that restaurant, help those people get more of that piece of pie? That is right in your wheelhouse. These people don't know how to do like mobile sales. They don't know how to get on the internet. They think I hook it up to my phone. I was just at the fruit stand the other day, and they were struggling getting their their payment system online because they were using the gas station's Wi-Fi. And the kid's sitting there with an iPhone 15 in his pocket. And I'm like, dude, use your iPhone. And they didn't have a mobile hotspot enabled for it.
Yep.
Like, that's $10. And you're slowing down your sales. People are really loyal to this fruit stand, so we'll put up with any amount of pain to get our stuff there. But when it comes to, like, if I had a fruit stand next to them and I could buy right now, I'm walking over there. The switching cost is low. When you're as an MSP, and you're helping your people build a budget around profitability, when you're a part of the solution, their friends are going to come over to you and say, oh, wow, they're helping my friend, the flower shop, earn more money through this really cool service. I don't even know how they're doing it, but I want to be able to do that too.
And I think additional to that is, don't be scared to make suggestions to your clients that may seem outlandish to them, but when you sit down and have the conversation and you talk about how it becomes profitable in their business or how it adds value to their business, you talk about the fruit stand, Adam, and you go, oh, well, everybody's loyal to that fruit stand. Yeah, that may be so, but how many new people walk up to the fruit stand and go, oh, well, I'm not going to wait in this line because the payments are going to take forever. I don't have cash in my pocket. So they simply move on. How much is lost in revenue with new customers just because of efficiencies that are not there in the business? So think about that as well as we go into the fourth quarter and planning out for 2025 already, which you should.
And that's where we go back to what Richard said earlier. How much better could you serve this customer if they told you about these problems?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're able to help them out without knowing the biggest risks to their company or the biggest sources of revenue. Imagine if you were part of that conversation. That's why we have the 2 Qs that Skip always talks about. What are your biggest risks, and what are the biggest sources of revenue of your company, and what are the biggest risks to that revenue? 2 simple questions that should drive the entire budget that you're going to deliver to your clients in just a couple months. It's a September. You should be asking for the budgetary meeting and scheduling it in October so that you get a 2025 12-year or 12-month calendar put in place. When you do that, you should be asking them, hey, before we meet in October, can you tell me a little bit more about what are the biggest risks to your company and what are the biggest sources of revenue to your company so that we can plan around technologies to mitigate those 2 things or enhance those things? And then when you come to the table in October and they explain their biggest problems, then you're going to know, oh, they're going to be like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't know there was a better way of connecting to the internet. I didn't know there was a better way that we could actually map out our entire building and have Wi-Fi that is even. And so we don't have these dead spots. I didn't know that I could do this with technology. I didn't know I could do SEO. Maybe you're a managed service provider who has multiple things other than just hardware support.
So now take that and leverage that. If you ask those questions to your point of contact at your client and they're not able to answer that question to you, either one, you're not sitting with the right client because they don't care about stuff like that, or 2, you're sitting with the wrong stakeholder at the business. If that is the case, don't be afraid to go, hey, can we invite somebody to our meeting that would be able to answer questions like this? You may be sitting with the CTO. Let's assume that it's a big enough company and they've got a CTO, and the CTO doesn't know the answer to the revenue or whatever. Hey, can we invite the CFO here? Can we invite the CEO to the next meeting? And again, what that does is it's solidifying the relationship, not just between you and that single person at a company, but you and that company as a whole. And when the CEO or another C-level exec that is able to answer those questions comes into the meeting, you look very professional. You may not have the answers because I don't know what the risks are to my client, they need to tell me that information. I can only surmise and guess it so much. But when we start having those types of conversations, I'll tell you what, the room lights up, because all of a sudden it's not just about Richard. It's about, hey, Humanize IT, tell me about your business. You do all the talking and I'm going to do all the listening. And afterwards, I'm going to go and think about the technology and come back and say, this is what we can put in place to help you achieve your next step in your business, not what Richard wants you to do.
Yeah, for those of you who have listened to this community update enough or our podcast enough, you will find that I tell this similar story all the time. When I was in the corporate world, and even when I was consulting, the biggest revenue bumps that I got from income, or the biggest differences I got from getting budget requests, was when a level 1 tech or a simple like a level 2 admin would ask a question, a simple question. How are you doing this? And then we would find problems that was never brought to IT because they didn't know it was an IT problem. They think us filtering the internet is an IT problem. So they ask us, hey, can you show me productivity reports on people based upon their internet activity? Common question. No, it's an HR question, people. But things like, how do I fill out timesheets better, does not occur to you as a IT admin. But when you find out that they're not filling out their timesheets because they're spending most of their time off-site and they can't access the system easily, then a level 1 tech, like, why don't I just get you a hotspot? We got 10 of them back here. Oh, I didn't know we had those. Didn't you use your phone for that? No, it's a hotspot. You just put it on the dashboard of your truck and you're done. Or asking a school, like, why are you running Chromebooks here? I'm like, oh, we could barely get our iPads to work, let alone Chromebooks. And well, I'm like, all the public schools have Chromebooks. What's the deal? Isn't that causing a loss? And like, well, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We're a small school. Okay, well, tell me why you're not running Chromebooks. It's unreliable, internet slow. You get the usual gripes. And you think, well, let's dive into that. Let's fix that. So 1 laptop per child, that's an IT question. But the policy decision to drive 1 laptop per child, that's an administration one. You don't get brought into that table. It's being killed before it gets brought to you because you don't have a seat at the leadership table to discuss this. They don't even know to come to you first. They're thinking, no, the iPads are enough trouble. We can't bring in Chromebooks. We'll just keep doing things the way they are. So you've got to be curious. You have to push that envelope. What is it that you want to do next year? And just let them tell you the story of their business and listen to them talk about flowers, dentistry, attorney stuff, whatever the industry is. You're going to have to cut through a bunch of stuff that you really don't care about, but you're going to see these nuggets every once in a while. That's worth $100,000, $200,000. As they say, well, we don't do this because it can't be done. That's not true. You know?
Yep.
What if there was a better way? What if you could use ChatGPT to solve this problem? What if you could have your engineer solve this problem? Yeah, it's going to be $100,000 to put it in place, but it's going to make this company $3 million. And so it's not your job to understand the company finances. It's your job to help them see, if I do this, it'll solve this problem. Now, is the return on investment worth it? That's up to the CFO. But you brought the solution to their table, and you'll be surprised at how many times you'll find a poor small school or something like that willing to say, well, that's going to be an extra $6,000 a month. Yeah, but we're going to have 40 more students because of it. That $6,000 a month sounds pretty appetizing now when each student is paying $1,200 a month and there's 40 of them.
And that's an important point. I think 2 things I just want to mention is that, one, when we go in and have these conversations with the customers, we don't need to be there with our technical cap on, ready to talk techie stuff. If the client is a technical client, by all means, yes, they know about the technical stuff. But majority of our clients will not be tech savvy people. So have conversations with them like you would have with your wife or your husband, who is not a tech person either, with your grandma, whoever it is, and just have the conversations to understand their bigger picture. Which then leads into the next point, as Adam was saying, don't decide for the client what's expensive and what's not expensive. This is the solution that we're presenting. This is the value add that it will give. Let the client decide whether they can find that money in their pocket or not. It's one of the biggest sales technique that people fail at is they in their minds preconceive how much money the client's got in their pockets. If a client comes into a car dealership saying, I want to buy a Mercedes-Benz, they're going to sell them a Mercedes-Benz or more. They're not going to take them and go, oh, well, you're walking around in flip-flops and a T-shirt. You can only afford to buy a Toyota. So don't put those preconceived ideas into your own head for 2025.
Yeah, and
let the client decide.
It's like me, like I buy cars. I'm not an expensive car guy. Like I buy a car for reliability or for purpose. I pull a camper or I'm towing my kids around the city. So you would never sell me a $70,000 car because it's not going to happen, people. However, I did the math one day and I realized that by buying a EV, I was going to save myself $6,000 a year in gas costs because of the amount I drove. And so then I was willing to jump up to $70,000 for a car because it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to decide what makes sense to your client. What you get to do is help them understand risks and rewards by presenting them with solutions, not just IT assets. Remember, you're a managed service provider. You're not a tech guide. You're a managed service provider. Some of you do phones. Some of you do printers. I talk to you guys all day. Some of you guys have CPA firms attached to you. You do finance as well. You're a managed services provider. You're able to do more than just support PCs and servers. You can come in and say, oh, that's interesting. You don't have a way to handle payment systems while not on site or nothing reliable. We're going to bring somebody in who's an expert at mobile data design, and it's going to help us build these systems for clients. So we see a need out there, and we're going to support them as a managed service and hardware service where you go on site. We're going to pop up a 5G connection that's going to rock the world, and then you can outsell everybody else. That's a solution to a problem. Then now the client can say, is it worth me paying $10,000 for the solution? And they look at their books, they do their number crunching, and those CFOs are extremely intelligent people. And they're going to say, $10,000 ROI on that's 5x done. You know, and you don't have to talk them into it. You're just seeing a problem, providing a solution. If you want to do like sales tactics, you can be like, don't tell them the price until they're emotionally committed. You can do all that stuff. I don't care. What I want you to do is actually during this fourth quarter coming up, before the end of September, heck, before the end of next week, I want you to get 3 budget sessions on your schedule for October and just talk to them about what is the expectations are for the business next year, not the technology. And then I want you to think about what they said and what technology exists that can help them make money. Because that's where I got the biggest bang for my buck in my entire career, was asking questions that weren't IT related. And then IT solutions came out of it.
Absolutely. So I agree with you, Adam, in terms of
course you do, because I'm always right.
But I'm gonna
it's appreciated that you say it.
But I'm gonna add something to this. If you're not in the position that Adam's talking about, where you've already got momentum with clients, where they're expecting these types of engagements, don't lose hope and go, oh well, I'm just going to put it off for next year. No, don't do that. Start with the process and start having conversations. And if the client's not familiar with the terms of QBRs or budget meetings or whatever, say, hey, we haven't chatted in a long time just about your business. Can I bring some donuts around next week Friday and we just sit and chat and find out how things are? Some of the most successful QBRs that I have ever had was when I phoned the customer and said, hey, we haven't sat around the table and just drank a cup of coffee for a while. Can we do it? And from that, they sold themselves on multiple projects because it was right after COVID. I say right after. It was around COVID. It was in COVID. It was before, whatever. And we were just talking about how the business I was working in, how we were able to pivot so easily and the challenges that they were having. And when I said, oh yeah, we pivoted because of this one, they sold themselves on solutions that we had been trying to sell from a technical aspect for years before. But because we just sat down and had a cup of coffee and some donuts, we could not get the client to keep quiet. It was supposed to be a 45-minute session. 2 hours later, we walk out the office going, "We'll get those sales quotes on your desk by Monday."
Yes.
So don't lose hope. Don't lose faith. Start with this process so that come 2025, if you want to start with a formal QBR with the client then so that you've introduced them to it, take the next 3 to 4 months and start on it. Just call it whatever the client is going to call it to make sure they'll sit with you.
And I would encourage you level 1 techs out there, right? You're going on site, you're replacing a mouse, you're replacing a monitor. Ask these questions just while you're sitting there. Hey, tell me about what's going on at the company lately.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, some of the best projects that I have approved and moved forward with came from level 1 techs who were just curious about what somebody was doing. Like, did you know that they don't know how to do this? Like, we've had that solution for 3 years. Why don't they use it? Because they lack this thing. They lack the hotspot. They lack the laptop, whatever it is. Like, dude, we can get that to them. Why hasn't anybody brought this to my desk? Well, they didn't know.
And you only know what you know. And if a client only knows how to do the same thing over and over again, but we can see it from a better point of view, educate them.
We're creatures of habit. We like doing the same thing. And this is where even you as a level 1 tech can prove that you are ready for the next level. You walk in, you ask good questions while you're sitting here. You're sitting there with the client. You may not be a CIO right now, but you might be someday. Tap into that part of yourself that's curious about the business. And say, hey, what's going on at the business lately? Like, what's coming up? What are the struggles? Just make small talk. Go out and get a pint with them afterwards. Get a cup of coffee and have a conversation about how their business is running. And your engineer brain, which never turns off, will start spewing out projects. And you think, I can get that solved for you.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Richard, it was great coming on today. And we're going to be on site live at Build It the next week. So Richard's going to meet us down there. We're going to schmooze and talk and break some boards and show off our new automated assessments feature, which, by the way, goes live for everybody who's a member right now. You will see that tomorrow morning when you wake up bright and early.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So we are going to start designing our templates in the live environment for you guys to use, or you just make your own. I'll try to have documentation out to you as soon as I can. And we know what that means. Probably never. Documentation. Why would you ever do that? But it's on me to do it, and I don't like it.
We're in IT. Documentation's always on the bottom of the priority list.
Yeah, it's there. All right. Thank you for coming on, Richard. We'll see you next week.
Cool. Bye, everyone.